G'day guys, Dane Clarkey here from Clarkey's NRL column, coming at you in my pyjamas at midday from a very cold place in Canberra. I think it's about 6 degrees at the moment, so please excuse the pyjamas at midday. This is the round 11 wrap-up video, guys, a weekly video series where I basically wrap up the NRL round that was. I give a little bit of an overview from both sides. I give a stat that I thought was prominent to the result or the outcome, and then I finish on a positive note, guys. I like to finish with two things I liked from the game and something that the team can take forward, whether they won or lost. So without further ado, let's go to Thursday night. The Panthers defeat the Eels 16-10. A much needed win for the Panthers. We can't overstate that and we can't understate it. They needed this win and they got the win. But I wasn't overly impressed with what I saw. Now, I didn't see a side that was playing like their season was on the line. I didn't see urgency in their attack or their defense. Now, they did miss only 27 tackles, I believe, which is about half of what they have been missing. But aside from their defense, I can't see too many positives they can really take out of this game moving forward. They weren't at their best, and I don't know if we'll see their best again in 2018 because, as I said, we're not seeing that urgency that is required to win games at the highest level of rugby league in the world. But without being too dour and raining on their game and the affair, at this stage of a season, given they were 2-10, a win is a win. They needed to win and they got it done. And that's that. For the Eels, now, I might be a little bit savage here, I suppose, but it needs to be said. The Eels never established a game plan, and if they had a game plan, they didn't stick to it once throughout the 80 minutes. Now, we didn't see a try from the Eels past the 2-minute mark. They were versing a side that misses roughly around 50 tackles per game. They missed the most in the NRL by a wide margin, and we did not see them pressured at all throughout the 80 minutes. We didn't see them pressured through repeat sets, and we saw the Eels take 2 conversion penalty goals when they could have tapped and gone. Now, I understand why you would take them, I suppose, given where the time was at and the score at the time. But when you're coming up against the team that misses the most tackles, surely you roll the dice and chance your arm and try to apply some pressure to them. And that's not what the Eels did at all through their errors and lack of consistency. Now, we'll move on to the stats, guys. And this doesn't get better for the Eels, unfortunately. Blake Ferguson at right centre inside George Jennings. Let's start with Ferguson. I don't believe he played centre in 2018. I know he played wing and a couple games at fullback for the Chooks. And for George Jennings, this is his second game back in 2019, I believe, and his second game with a different partner inside him, not allowing him to find consistency with the same partner there. 6 errors, was the result down that side. I don't know what Brad Arthur was thinking pairing those two on the right side. Every time they'd go down there, because they are both big, strong runners, it would look dangerous, and they'd force the pass or they'd throw it and the other one wouldn't be there because they just don't have that cohesion. I thought they were very poor on the right-hand side, and as I said, 6 errors, 3 between them both paints that picture. My like for the Eels was Reid Marnie. 58 tackles. Now, he's consistently up above 50 tackles this year, guys, and I actually had him in for my Maroons number 9. I can understand why a lot of people wouldn't have him there, but as far as statistics go, he is the form number 9 available for Queensland within the competition, and once he's able to develop a short kicking game and a running game, which I've got no doubt will come in the development of his career, he will be a long-term holder of that Maroons 9 jersey, in my opinion. My like for the Panthers wasn't necessarily from the game. It was what we saw post-match. The emotion they shown was raw. You saw how much it meant to them to get that win. They needed to win, and they did it. So great job to the Panthers. All right, this is a match you guys know I loved, and I actually tipped Manly just because I wanted to. Every time I tip Manly this year, they've lost. I've only tipped them twice. They've lost that. And every time I've tipped against them, they've won. So I'm literally like Manly's bad or / good luck charm at the moment. As I said, if I don't tip them, they will win. If I tip them, they win. So I tipped them this week so my boys would win. And that's exactly what happened. Titans 36-18. And you guys know I've been saying this all year. If the Titans are able to string together more than 20 minutes of good football, which they're not able to do very often, but if they are dangerous and they can beat anyone. I loved what we saw from the bench. We had Shannon Boyd, we had Bryce Cartwright, we had Tyrone Peachey all coming on and adding energy and enthusiasm. So there was no drop throughout the 80 minutes. It was there for the whole 80 minutes. It wasn't an 80-minute performance, but the effort was there for the majority of the game, and that's why you saw the Titans win this one. For the Eagles, Probably underestimated their opponents a little bit, I would say. This is the first time all year they've done that, so no doubt they'll learn from that and improve. Make sure it doesn't happen again. If I'm a Seagulls fan, I don't look too much into this win. As Des Hasler did say to, I believe, Braithen Astor off camera, he said, I'm really worried about this game. I think we might have underestimated them in our preparation throughout the week. And as we know in the NRL, the preparation is very key. Stat: 43% possession, 69% completion, 13 errors, and 9 penalties against the Sea Eagles. That is almost times 2 what the Titans had in terms of errors and penalties. And then the Titans' completion and possession rate was also better. Sort of paints the picture as to the result and the scoreline we got there. I believe they are the worst stats for Manly all season. Again, preparation probably a little bit off. For the Titans, I liked Dale Copley scoring a hat-trick. He had some great form at the Broncos when he first came into the NRL. Him and Daniel Vito on the wings there. He went to the Roosters, came back to the Titans. He's never really been able to recapture that form. Hopefully this is the start of it. I thought the hat-trick was phenomenal. And for the Seagulls, I like Brendan Elliott. 2 line breaks and 195 metres at fullback there. Obviously filling in for Tom Trbojevic, doing a handy job at it, no doubt. Up against his former club. He turned up and I thought he had a very good game. All right, the Knights versus the Roosters. Start off with the Knights. Game of the round, it was the Pearce and Ponga show. And I don't like to use that analogy very often within the NRL. I more so believe that's an NBA thing. We hear LeBron's Lakers, or we used to hear Curry's Warriors, or we hear Harden's Rockets. If you're not an NBA fan, you probably got no idea what I'm talking about. But we don't necessarily hear in the NRL, we never used to hear it's Lockyer's Broncos, or it's JT's Cowboys, because it is more of a team sport, I suppose. There's 13 people on the field as opposed to 5 on the court. But anyway, I will use that analogy here. It was the Pearce and Ponga show. It really was. It was a masterclass performance from those two. But without taking too much away from the Roosters, they do have some genuine excuses. But the way the Knights turned up here, they were locked in with their mindset, and I truly believe they probably would have beaten any team at that night. Now, Roosters, second loss of the year, but they were also missing 3/4 of their spine. Keary was taken off early, Cronk was rested, and we know Jake Friend is out with a ruptured bicep. We saw Latrell Mitchell moved into 5'8" for his 3rd game of the year, and we saw Brock Lamb in his return to the NRL. I thought they were both pretty poor. Latrell, some genuine excuses. Obviously, when you're transitioning into the halves, you want to have a strong partner next to you, a Keary or a Cronk. And he had Brock Lamb, and I don't believe Brock Lamb, he's been away from the NRL for a while. He's had time to work on his game. From what we saw, he should have been up for this game. It was his former club, the club that told him he doesn't have a future in first grade. And for me, he just wasn't up to it. I believe he's on a 1-year deal with the Roosters. So I'd say that probably spells the end of his time at the Roosters. And I don't think Robinson uses him unless he has to. But let's move on to more positive notes. Now, on field, how can I go past Mitchell Pearce? His 5th man of the match performance in the row, but I'm going to go off the field, guys. The Newcastle Knights fans, you guys make me wish I was a Knights fan. I'm being completely honest there. You guys are just awesome. How loud that stadium is, how much it means to all you guys, how much you've had to endure this past half decade to see you guys having this sort of success and turning up for your team. Really inspiring from a Titans fan, given, we probably have the least amount of fans in the comp and nothing like you guys have there. And it's very special, guys. You should all be very proud of yourselves. What I like for the Roosters, James Tedesco, he is a star among stars. I have written a column on this if you'd like to read it on my page. 13 tackle breaks and almost 300 metres, the most of anyone in the game. Standing up in the absence of 3/4 of his spine that was missing. He was the 1/4 that was remaining. And boy, he did his job. Even scored a try also. How did I miss that? All right, the next game we have here is the Broncos versus the Warriors. And my notes are on the wrong page, so just give me 1 second here. Sorry, guys. Broncos. Gripping contest despite the scoreline. If you showed that scoreline to someone, they'd say, well, that looks like a boring game. But it wasn't. It was gripping because both teams had opportunities. They just couldn't get through. One really good thing for the Broncos here, guys. Only 1 try, their defense won in this game. If they can win a game by scoring 1 try and letting their defense do the talking, that speaks volumes of how dangerous they are. Generally, when you have an inexperienced forward pack, you see a lot more tries leaked. And when you see this sort of effort on defense, given their young forward pack, it speaks volumes to how dangerous they actually can be within this competition when they're in the right frame of mind and they've prepared well. Warriors, again, guys, I might be a little bit savage here, but very poor. They had so many opportunities from start to finish, and they didn't convert once. 0 line breaks from the entire team. despite 12 offloads. Now, for me, when you get an offload, that is a chance to break the line because there is generally at least 2 or 3 defenders working on getting that player down. They had 12 opportunities, and guess what? They converted 0. I'm not sure who gets the blame here, but as far as rugby league guys goes, you guys know how it is. The spine, it will probably where the heat goes to. They've got to put their hand up for this one, and after a performance like that, 0 line breaks, it's 0 tries. I mean, very poor. And if you watch the game, guys, it's not as if the Broncos starved them of possession. It's not as if the Broncos played a grinding football where they couldn't get out of their own half. They had bloody opportunities upon opportunities. They just didn't convert one. I thought it was crazy watching them just pour the game down the drain, realistically. Stat, all very even apart from the missed tackle. Broncos only missed 15 to the Warriors 33. But I suppose for the Warriors, there is a bit of a positive there. If they can miss 33 tackles but still keep a team to 1 try, that shows they are turning up for each other on defense, especially when you factor in there was 3 line breaks there also for the Broncos. For the Broncos, I've already spoke about it. I loved their defense. It was simply superb. And for the Warriors, I like Ken Mamalo, 224 meters. I think he's a very underrated winger. He reminds me a lot of a Manu Vatuvei. He is just a beast, and I remember the Fox commentators saying the week before, not one Warriors forward was over 100 meters. Their wingers are consistently both up over 200 meters because they bring so much firepower in terms of starting their sets, and I really liked what I saw there. All right, we got the Rabbitohs versus the Tigers. Rabbitohs 32, Tigers 16. What can we say about the Rabbitohs anymore, guys? They just keep winning. They're amazing. Bennett gets the absolute best out of his men, and the bunnies are flying. I'm surprised they're not premiership favourites, given they've already toppled the Roosters once this year. Tigers looked very flat, I thought. Now, perhaps this was due to the Rabbitohs forward pack sort of stifling their attack. I'm not sure. Or perhaps it was against the Melbourne Storm last week. We know the Storm play a very grinding, wrestling sort of football that takes it out of you. But there was a 9-day turnaround, so it is hard to blame that. Overall, I just didn't see the enthusiasm there that I've seen, especially from their bench in the games they have won this year. There wasn't that energetic sort of nature that their forward pack has been bringing. Like I said, just an overall very flat sort of lackluster performance from them. Stats, all fairly even. Nothing of interest, guys, at all. I mean, a little bit weird here. Tigers had more tackle breaks and offloads, but South had more line breaks. So make of that what you will. Generally, if you're making more tackle breaks and offloads, you're making more line breaks, but a little bit strange. For the Rabbitohs, I liked Liam Knight scoring a try. He's playing some awesome footy here, considering he's sort of been a fringe first grader at the Raiders the year before. And for the Tigers, I like David Norfoluma. Over 200 metres, the most of anyone in his team in his return to the NRL. It's been a little bit hard done by to not play, or for round 11 to be his first game of NRL for 2019. As we move on to the Storm and the Bulldogs. Storm. I think everyone sort of expected this sort of result and performance from them. Now, for me, this year at least, it seems the Melbourne Storm sort of need a reason to turn up. Because they've just had so much success over the past half-decade that it almost feels to me they need a reason to turn up to a game. Otherwise, they find themselves in dogfights. Last week against the Tigers, they got it done by 2 points. That was a dogfight. The last time they versed the Bulldogs, they got it done by 2 points. That was a dogfight. They didn't need any other reason besides that last meeting to come here with purpose and intent. And, I mean, they did exactly just that. They came with a proper mindset where, when we see them with this mindset, guys, they're just dominant. They dominated the Eels. They've dominated the Bulldogs. They can dominate anyone. But it just seems they've had so much success, they almost need a reason to turn up to the game these days. Dogs, very lackluster. Absolutely dominated at home, at Belmore. This side is still a long way away from the top 8, and I know I spoke about it and said they're probably not too far off top 8. Maybe we'll see them slide in there by the end of this year, but from what I've seen from the last month of footy, I can't say they're anywhere close now. It's just funny how fast things can change within rugby league. Stat. Now, Storm had more of everything you want and less of everything you don't. It was a complete performance across the park. There was not one key area. They dominated everywhere. Cameron Smith, 500 first-class games, that is including Maroons, All-Stars, Australian Kangaroos appearances, etc., etc. And, of course, NRL games. Just simply incredible. The fact he plays in the middle as well, he's a hooker doing this. He makes, 40 to 50 tackles every week. He is just incredible. Probably the greatest of all time. And the hooker from the other team, I've gone with Jerry Marshall-King. Now, he had the most tackles in his side. I believe he had about 48, 46. And I sort of doubted him moving into hooker permanently this year because he was a 5'8 beforehand. I thought he was a little bit too small, but he has improved every single week within this new role. And I'm really enjoying watching him play his footy at the moment. All right, Sharks versus Dragons. Sharks 22, Dragons 9. Sherry Pie times 3. Incredible hat-trick by Bryson there. Absolutely just wow. I mean, what can you actually say? A hat-trick. He is 18 years old, and it's just absolutely unbelievable. I mean, it blows my mind that someone can come in to the NRL at age 18 and do this. And he hasn't looked out of place once since he's come in now. Moylan looked great also in his return. And the Sharks have shown that they can afford to have a couple more players having an off night and still win. They've just got too much X factor throughout their lineup. Dragons, they're in real trouble, especially now that Hunt's gone for Origin. Now, they have no one managing their sets effectively since Widdop's left injured. No one finishing their sets crisply. Now, they did have 3 forced dropouts, but still 200 less kicking meters. My was Bronson Xerri. I think I called him Bryson before, sorry. Bronson Xerri, 6 months ago, I first mentioned him and said he has a lot of potential. Fast forward 6 months, he's now crushing his dreams and opposition within the NRL. And my for the Dogs is 64 tackles for Cameron McInnes. Now, he tops the NRL leaderboard, and he does this week in, week out. He's a proper workhorse in the middle there. And I believe I've missed a game here, guys, and if I have, just let me pause for 1 second and go back. I have indeed. I've missed the Cowboys and the Raiders game, so just disregard what's on the screen there. I do apologize. That is the wrong game, but let's go on with it. So the Cowboys defeated the Raiders 22-16. The Cowboys, it was the Morgan and the Tamalolo show. Their forward pack absolutely dominated the Raiders, I thought. And that really gives Morgan the space and the time he needs to implement his game plan and orchestrate the strings behind the scenes and get the Cowboys the victory. This was the 3rd loss in the row for the Raiders, and this might prompt Ricky to make a couple changes within the side. We obviously have Aiden Caesar waiting in reserve grade and a couple young forwards there also, including Emre Gula, etc. They weren't at their best, but they are missing a lot of genuine strike. They're missing John Bateman, their best back rower. They're missing Jordan Rapana, their best winger. And they're missing Joseph Leilua, unfortunately for the rest of the year, their best centre. So a lot of strike power missing there. Stat, 10 less runs for the Raiders, but 250 less meters. Also interesting, the Cowboys had 80 more kick return meters, and that is a stat they have rarely won in 2019. I haven't thought they've got enough from their back 3 all year. They got it against the Raiders, and they come up with the win. For the Cowboys, I'm a broken record. Tamalolo, 250 plus meters, just insane. He does this every week, but how can you not like it? And for the Raiders, again, I've probably harped on about this a lot too now. They were in this till the final whistle. They were attacking the line in the last minute of the game, and they never gave up and never quit, which is something they haven't done in previous seasons. That is going to do it for the round 11 wrap-up, guys. Let me know if you agree or disagree with some of my thoughts in the comments. Hopefully, it wasn't too boring. I've realized I've just gone for 19 minutes, which is probably a little bit too long, so I do apologize. And then I also do apologize for missing the Raiders graphic there. Obviously, I didn't do that intentionally, just bloody stuffed up. So I do apologize. If you've made it this far, I really appreciate it. Hopefully, you enjoyed the video and enjoyed some of my insights on the round that was. And I'll see you guys tomorrow with my tipping video. Cheers, guys.